Welcome to another episode of Comedy Wham Presents with me, your host, Valerie, and coming to you from the much-anticipated 2021 Moontower Comedy Festival. My sometime co-host, Miss Purrington, is resting at home. ComedyWham.com is your place to go for features about all Austin comedy, including those passing through Austin for festivals. Follow Comedy Wham on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. Where aren't we? In addition to podcasts, Comedy Wham brings you articles, album reviews, a monthly show on first Tuesdays at Hobson Time in Lakeway, and an events page for live shows in Austin and Houston. If you're a comic in those cities and want your show featured on the calendar, go to the events page and click Submit a Show to complete the short survey. Now, let's get back to our podcast. We hope you'll rate and review us. With over 200 interviews since its launch in 2016, the podcast is your anthropology lesson in Austin comedy, bringing you funny people and their stories. As a fan, I like to delve into a comic's background and motivations, and will usually take a detour along the way. Consider the interview a way for you to get to know the folks that make the Austin comedy scene one of the best in the country.
All right, great. All right, so today we are recording live on location at the beautiful Driscoll Hotel in downtown Austin. I'm talking to, this is my second 2021 Moontower interview with a brand new dad. He's got two great specials out, Fun Size and Daddy Issues, which were issued back-to-back in 2015 and 16. And in my personal opinion, he is the best Kid Rock cover singer from past Moontower goddamn comedy jams. And I'm springing this on him. He actually made me cry during last night's Pearl Jam's Alive song. And I'll maybe tell you a little bit about why it made me cry. And he has a long time podcast with his friend Adam Ray about last night. And apparently after running into him on the streets of Austin last night, he does not approve of my cheese pizza choices. So now, without further ado, Comedy Wham presents our guest, Brad Williams.
That is a lovely intro. Awesome. No, I've made people cry before with my singing, so it's totally understandable that you would burst into tears upon hearing me try to emulate Eddie Vedder and his amazing vocals. So I'm not insulted by that at all. I'm glad. I hope you went into a safe space after that, gathered yourself, centered yourself, and now we're back.
It was interesting because I know you're trying to play it off as, my singing is so bad. Your singing is incredible, and anyone listening to this can hear like that deep bass baritone voice of yours.
Yeah.
And that's why you pull off that Kid Rock.
Well, and I think that's going to be my new intro, is not that I've had two Showtime specials and a Netflix special, just he's a really good Kid Rock cover singer. That's what I want to be known for. I really do. Bob's a good guy. I met him before. He was really nice to me. But no, what I told someone last night, because they're like, man, you could sing Eddie Vedder. And I go, well, A, no, I can't. But B, whether it be karaoke or in this case the goddamn comedy jam, it's just finding a song that's in your range. Like, I sing low, and I can do, like, a falsetto Eddie Vedder. It's it's not actual singing like he does. It's like, it's a fake. It's a, it's stuff like that, but it's in his range. So you can sound good. If you're going up there like, I'm going to do Sia's Chandelier. It's like, good fucking luck. No, that's not going to go well for you. So the key is to find something that's in your range, and thankfully, like Kid Rock and Pearl Jam, some Pearl Jam songs are in my range, so I just know how to do that. Like other songs I've done at the jam are like the Proclaimers, Walk 500 Miles, and things like that, to where it's like, it's a guy scream talking. It's not, it's not a great vocalist. I don't think Kid Rock's going to be insulted if I say he's not a great vocalist.
He may be preoccupied with other things anyway.
Sure.
So. Let's stay on goddamn Comedy Jam for just a second.
Yeah.
Because you have appeared... I've been coming to Moontower for 4 years, I think. Uh-huh. And you've performed on each of the Moontowers during that time.
Yeah.
You've done a comedy jam. Do you have a favorite experience, or is it like picking your favorite child and impossible to do?
Oh, well, first of all, I'm a new dad, like you said, and I could officially say anyone who says like, oh, you don't want to pick your favorite child, or it's impossible to pick your favorite child, they're lying. You can absolutely pick your favorite child. Every parent right now goes like, yeah, I wish the other one was more like this one. Totally, and that's absolutely. And I'm saying that having only one kid.
Yeah.
Because I know that if we had another kid and the kid was not like this baby, then we'd be really mad about that, and we absolutely would have a favorite child. So anyone who says, oh, we don't have favorites, liar. But yeah, it is kind of like I enjoyed going out with the faux fur coat on to be Kid Rock. It's the goddamn Comedy Jam. For those of you who don't know what the show is, I mean, comics come out, they do a little set, and then they sing a song with an incredible band behind them, and they get to be rock stars. They get to pretend like they're rock stars. Or if you're a comic like Bill Burr, you're just a different kind of rock star, because he is a rock star. But yeah, it's insanely fun. You get to dive into a character, and you really get to. It's finding another way of expressing yourself and doing something different, and it's a lot of fun. So, yeah, Kid Rock was amazing. But last night doing Pearl Jam's Alive, I chose that song because of COVID and what we went through and how we came out of it, and we're still alive.
Yeah.
So it's like so it felt very cathartic to scream that in my best Eddie Vedder falsetto, and then to crowd surf. So if you get COVID, it's probably from me, from crowd surfing.
But you're supposed to have your little band.
Yeah, I got my band. I'm vaccinated, but breakthrough cases sometimes happens.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about that. But no, I didn't plan on crowd surfing. But then I got up there, and during the time, a few people in the front were like, "Come on!" And you get wrapped up in it, and you get wrapped up in the adrenaline rush. So yeah, and in my head, I'm like, I'm not that heavy, because the fear is that you go and you jump out and they drop you, and now you're like, okay. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I love the goddamn comedy jam.
As a mother and a parent, I always get so freaked out when I see people crowd surfing, because I'm like, oh my god, you could hurt yourself.
Yeah, no, and there was a time, like, they started moving me back in the crowd surfing, and then I saw that no one was behind them.
There, yeah.
So I'm like, no, stop! As you see Brad disappear.
And I was going to say, your introduction of the song was exactly like the perfect setup for why I got emotional. During there's a particular lyric that just like that gets me. And
Which lyric was that?
I will tell you, it is the lyric about while you were sitting home alone at age 13 and your real daddy was crying. Yeah. Because I am a parent, and full disclosure, I'm not trying to bring this down.
Sure.
My son's father passed away at age 12, so very, very close to 13. So
that's literally the lyric.
That is,
Yeah,
so I've been carrying that
biography.
It's...
Hey, but it's amazing how music can do that to you, whether it be the actual artist who wrote the lyrics or just some drunken asshole singing it at karaoke or the jam, where maybe they sing it in a way where they're like, oh, that's what that lyric is, and you actually hear it for the first time, really, or you've gone through an event that lyric relates to. Totally understandable.
As a new dad, that song means something different for you. Yeah. And many songs have different meanings, exactly as you said.
I watch TV and movies and listen to music, and now as a new dad, like, things hit me that I'm just like, oh, you son of a bitch, because I'll just start crying, like, based on, like, I was watching a wrestling pay-per-view a few weeks ago. I may get emotional talking about this.
I can
and it's
relate.
So stupid, but I'll tell you. So this guy had a wrestling match. It was a really intense match. He was bleeding and all of that, and but then the match was over. It was spectacular, and then the guy called his daughters into the ring, and you can tell why he was doing it. He was doing it to look at them and say, "Daddy's okay. Daddy's okay." You see?
Oh.
Like, it's getting you as a parent.
Uh-huh.
And thankfully I don't have that job where, I'm falling off a 15-foot high steel cage through a table or anything like that, but just the checking on your kids and making sure. And, so just like shit like that. Whereas before I'd be like, that's cool.
Yeah.
He did a thing with his family. That's not. Now I watch it and I'm like, It gets you. You become more in tune with your emotions because when you have kids, you truly care about something more than yourself, more than your spouse, more than anything is you value the lives of your children. So and their happiness. So it's a weird thing to now have that, and now I'm sure if I ever watched the movie Taken again, I'd probably cry. Like, kill him, they took his baby girl, fucking rip their balls off. Like, I'd be going nuts. So those kind of emotions you can only truly get in touch with once you've gone through an experience like that.
Yeah. So, Brad, thank you for humoring me through that whole discussion. This is intended to be kind of a traditional interview, getting to know you as a comic. And,
okay.
I want to go to the Wayback Machine.
Ooh, fun.
And I have an official icebreaker question. We are
10
minutes in, and I'm now asking my official icebreaker question.
That's fine.
One word to describe your past.
Jeez. Past. Optimistic. Yeah. Optimistic. Because I'm not going to be this guy that comes up here and says, like, I had a hard childhood and a hard upbringing. Nah, I didn't. I was great. I had a great family.
Yeah.
Parents still together. Affluent, dad got a good job. Made a couple of shekels. I'm not going to be this kid that's like, no, we lived in a tough neighborhood. No, we didn't.
Yeah.
We lived in a great neighborhood. I was a kid that a lot of kids hated. Because oh wait, there's people that don't, but optimistic because whenever things would not turn out exactly the way I wanted them to, I wouldn't get too down about it, and I would always say, it's going to get better, or it's going to improve, or my fortunes will change. And you kind of have to have that optimistic philosophy, especially when you start something like comedy. Now that I'm almost 18 years in, I'm literally 2 weeks away from my 18-year anniversary. Wow. Now that I'm 18 years into comedy, if I look back when I started and knew what I know now about the comedy industry, I wouldn't have started. Because the odds are so against you. It is insanely, to make it, to quote-unquote make it in this business, there's so many things that have to go right for you other than you just being talented or just being able to do this job. Yeah. So I would say optimistic, because when I started doing comedy 18 years ago in the line for open mic night at the Laugh Factory, and I was like, no, this is going to work out. And when I would drive 4 hours to do 3 minutes for no money at another open mic, and one time I got into a car crash out front of the open mic.
Oh, gosh.
And while they were taking my statement, I ran in, did my spot, and then ran back out and finished giving my statement to the cops.
Wow.
The cops actually came in and watched me and laughed a few times. It was kind of cool. But doing all that, no wonder my parents were mad when I dropped out of school to do comedy. They're like, yeah, it's not gonna work for you. You can't make a career out of this. And I'm not saying that to say, oh, my parents were wrong. No, they're absolutely right. That's what you should say, because the odds are against you. So the fact that any of us are here doing this, it's so good about. It's one of the coolest parts about coming to this festival is you come to this festival and see so many talented men and women that we all kind of get to look around and be like, can you believe we're actually doing this shit?
Yeah.
We're actually doing this and making money and supporting, some of us supporting families and with jokes. It's madness. So, always optimistic.
For anybody that doesn't know the story of your start is pretty darned magical. And when I was reading about it, I was thinking of the Bruce Springsteen video where he brings Courtney Cox up on stage, and like that
dancing
launches
in the dark,
her. Yeah,
dances in the dark.
Yeah.
We're just dancing in the dark. By the way, just a complete side note: I'm not trying to cancel Bruce Springsteen, but not at all. He's the boss. He just turned 72. He's great, but he's got a few songs that haven't really aged well. There's one song, "Hey little girl, is your daddy home?" And you're just like, oh my god. It's not, like, but anyway, like I said, I'm not trying to cancel him. I still bust Thunder Road in my house. No problem. But the story is nuts, because the story is it was Father's Day weekend of 18 years ago, so do the math, like 2002, 2003, and I was in the audience of Carlos Mencia's show, and he started doing midget jokes. Half the audience was laughing. The half that was sitting by me was just like like motioning towards, and he noticed that, and he goes, "What, is one of them here?" And I just raised my creepy little hand in the air, like, "Yeah, I'm here. I'm just having fun, enjoying the show." And he goes, "Oh my god, get up here." And he just called me up on stage. And he started asking me questions, and I just answered the questions. I didn't think like, oh, what's the funniest thing I could say? I just answered questions, and my answers got laughs. And that was the catalyst. That was like, oh, this is awesome. And then usually if I'm giving like a short form radio interview, I'll shorten the story a lot, and that's usually where the story ends. I go like, and then I went on the road, and blah, blah, blah. Like, so the extended version of the story is we have that night where I go on stage and I get laughs. Like, he asked me like, what do you do for a living? And I go, at the time, kid from Orange County, I worked at Disneyland. And I said that, and the audience laughed. Then I turned to the audience as a dwarf and I go, fuck you, I'm not one of the 7. And that got a laugh. And then I'm like, oh, that felt good. And I told him that night, I go, I'm going to be a stand-up comedian. I go, that was incredible. That's what I'm going to do.
Wow.
So, fast forward, a year and a half later, I've been doing open mics, and this time he sees me before the show. And, because he was doing 2 shows that day, that night, I saw him at the end of the early show when I was in line for the late show. He goes, hey, you're that dude from the thing. Did you ever start doing comedy? And I go, yep, I've been doing it for a year and a half. He goes, huh, all right. Want to open up my show tonight? I go, yes, please. So the host goes on, then I go on. I do like 5 minutes. 3.5 minutes was mine. A minute and a half was Johnny Sanchez bits. And I've told Johnny about this. We laugh about it. Don't steal jokes, people. And then I, at the end of the show, at the end of my set, Mencia wasn't supposed to go on stage. But he goes on stage. He goes, hold on, I'll be back. And he goes on stage and he goes, hey, did you guys like Brad? And the whole audience, yeah. He goes, okay. You guys just made a very important decision for me. My current feature act he's a headliner. He's killing it. He's going to be a great comic in this business. And that feature act was Steve Trevino, who is now national touring headliner, selling out. And he goes, yeah, he's ready. So he's going to move on and do his own thing. And you guys really like Brad. So, Brad, you want to go on the road?
Holy hell.
Yeah. And I'm just sitting in the back like, huh?
Pitching yourself?
Yeah, like, what? Okay. So, yeah, started going. The next weekend, we were in Bakersfield, California. And I was doing a show, and, like, I was opening for him in front of 1,300 people. And I was just doing coffee shops and open mics before that.
Did you, were you a writer, or do you do off the cuff? Because you said for that first time that he brought you up.
Yeah. I wish, I'm so in awe of the comedians that can sit down and write just an amazing, well-worded, every syllable is curated and planned. I'm in awe of those comics. Like, you look at it like the comics where you can tell, oh shit, you're a great writer. Like, I mean, back from like Richard Jenny to now like John Mulaney, or just those comedians that just write amazing jokes. I'm jealous. I have to write on stage. I have to bring an experience, a story, a thought up on stage, and then talk it out and find the joke there. That's how I do it. And yeah, like I said, very jealous of the ones that can just sit down and write and act.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, that's how I write. So I would just go bring my experiences up on stage and talk them out, and the parts that get laughs, cool, keep that. If I try something it doesn't get a laugh, all right, don't do that again. That's how you build the hour.
So a year and a half into your comedy work, you have accumulated what, 5-10 minutes? And
Yeah.
you have to now do what,
Yeah.
20?
At the time, I was still doing like 5 to 10, because the feature act, Steve hadn't left yet.
Okay.
He was still hanging around for a little bit longer, so I got to be kind of like the backup quarterback.
Okay.
That gets to sit behind the starter for a year and learn.
Okay.
So it was I got put in the absolute best possible situation for a young comedian, where I could just go out, do jokes, do 5 to 10 minutes, kill or not kill, that's fine. Fail, and if I fail, it doesn't matter, because Steve was coming up next, and he'd do fine, and then of course Mencia. So yeah, that was it was a great experience for me personally.
One of my favorite things to hear is when an experienced comic actually mentors a younger comic. And that sounds like you were being set up for success, as opposed to, hey, I'm going to make you do 20 minutes, and if you suck, then you're out of here.
F you, you're
who
gone.
Cares?
Yeah, I try to pay that forward too. I think it's important. There's a number of comics who open for me that I try really hard to give them opportunities and put them in positions to win, or I'll talk to club owners about them, about headlining off nights, or introduce them to the right people. Like right now, one of my features is a comic named JB Ball. He's out of Tampa. He's incredible. Honest to God, I think he's funnier than me. And it's just, people don't know it yet. And when they finally figure it out, it's going to be great for him. But yeah, one person who opened for me a few times, who's now just killing it, and I'm so happy for her, is Becky Robinson. Becky Robinson opened for me a few times. And not saying I had anything to do with it. It was all her. I'm not taking credit for this. It's Becky. Like, she found characters, she found the things that worked, and she's killing it now. She's selling out theaters. Like, it's awesome. It's just awesome. I love seeing that, because, it's like I said before, it's such a small club of national touring headliners that when you see someone get there, you're like, oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. Good for you. It's so great.
I'm somehow going to keep managing to go back into even more of a Wayback Machine.
That's okay.
Because now we kind of know how your trajectory kicked off. But we'll probably come back to that.
Sure.
Was comedy something? I mean, you're obviously in the audience of the Carlos Mencia show. You're in LA, tons of comedy, film, movie. Were you going to see a lot of comedy? Is that?
At the time, that was my first show that I ever went to see.
Good God, Brad!
I know, crazy, right? But I got to see it more, and I got to love more. But that was my first show I saw live. But I was obsessed with those half-hour Comedy Central presents. I can name you so many. I can tell you the set and I can tell you the set design, like, because they got to, the comics got to kind of put their own personality in the set design. Like, I did a show with Dom Herrera last night, and his is one of the ones I remember so well. Just the stoop, like, it was essentially his stoop as a kid. Mencia had the cartoons, Frank Caliendo, Louis Black, Freddie Soto, like Pablo Francisco, so many, Mitch Hedberg, so many great half hours. So I was obsessed with those. But I was obsessed with those when I was like 15, 16, before I could even make it and go to a live show.
Yeah.
So, I had done some improv in high school, but never, being a stand-up comic to me was an unobtainable, like, it's one of those jobs where you're like, well, no one actually does that. Like, no one, like, no one's actually a stand-up comedian. For me, it's like being an NFL football coach. It's like, how do you get to be an NFL football coach? I don't know. No one actually does that. Like, there's like 8 guys that do it, and they keep being rotated around the league. But yeah, that's just what that's just what I thought it was. So when I started getting into it, and I started seeing a path to being a professional stand-up comic, I was like, oh, you can do this. And but yeah, I was funny as a kid. I always say this, when I was in high school, I was voted most likely to become famous.
Huh. Holy cow.
So now I just look at that other girl who won, Simone Levine, calling you out. What the fuck? Keep up your end of the bargain, Simone. Come on. I did my job. Come on.
We'll have to Google her and see if we can tag her.
Yeah. Maybe
episode.
Yeah, maybe she can become a TikTok star. I don't know. She's my age. She's probably doing well. She's a smart person. But yeah, so yeah, it was always funny, but I never thought I could actually like make a living being funny.
Yeah.
So it's really quite amazing that you get to achieve that goal.
Yeah. So now we'll go back to this. I mean, to me, you're basically out of diapers in the comedy world when you get this opportunity to work with Nancy a year and a half in. Did you ever fall into that trap as a younger comic of, I'm going to, especially since you basically write on stage, I'm going to be somebody else. I'm going to try to be somebody else.
Oh, yeah, totally. I think a lot of young comedians do that. And it's only because, you know, it's like when you pick up a guitar and you want to learn how to play music, the first songs you're going to learn are like, well, if you're a Metallica fan, you're going to play Metallica songs. If you're, you know, a fan of the Beatles, you're going to learn the Beatles songs. Like, so yeah, when you start off, you start sounding like, even if the jokes aren't exact, the personality, the cadence, all that, as you start, like, I was trying to be Eddie Murphy. I was trying to be Eddie Murphy from Eddie Murphy Raw. Totally just trying to do that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, when you're young and you start, you sound like other comedians before you figure out. And it's funny because you can almost you can, when you see a young comic, you can almost pinpoint, like, oh, you're here because you like Anthony Jeselnik, or oh, you started doing comedy because you like Eliza or Dave Attell or whoever. You can almost pinpoint it, and it's like when I was starting, all the open mics, every comic sounded like Dane Cook. Every comic sounded like Dane Cook. They were all doing their version of Dane because that's who inspired them. So yeah, a lot of comics sound like other comics when they start off, just because that's what they're into, and that's what they want to sound like. But then as you do it, you write your own jokes, you develop your own personality, your own voice, your own cadences. Now you'll figure out what you sound like, what your voice is. It'll take a while, and hopefully I had this, and I hope other comics have this. Hopefully someone pulls you aside and goes, hey, you're sounding a lot like so-and-so. Don't do that. And hopefully they can go, oh, shit, okay. And they stop, and they don't go like, fuck it, I can do that. And then they do it anyway. So, yeah, I probably sounded like, when I started off, I probably sounded a lot like Eddie Murphy from Eddie Murphy Raw. I probably sounded like a lot like Johnny Sanchez. So, yeah. And like I said, I haven't told Eddie yet. I told Johnny that. We have a laugh about it.
Well, congratulations on breaking out of that, because that has been a successful
Thank you.
Career. I want to see, where do I want to go next? Because being in LA based, and you grew up in LA, so you know what living there is like, in the industry that's there.
Yeah, horrible place to start doing comedy.
I'm sorry, we know each other from the past.
Oh, one second, I'm doing a quick interview.
Okay.
But as soon as I'm done.
Okay.
All right.
When did you get opportunities to do acting? And did you want to do acting?
I didn't want to. Like, I'm not an actor. Like, if I get acting jobs, awesome. they're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
They're a good time, but I'm a stand-up comic. That's what I do. It's what I'm the best at. So any acting gigs I get, I'll just do to enhance my stand-up comedy and to sell more tickets. But yeah, well, because right when I started going along with Mencia, he got the show, The Mind of Mencia, and then he had then if you have a dwarf in your crew and you have a sketch show, yeah, you're gonna throw him in there. So I got to do some really cool things, some really fun sketches, and that was a valuable experience. But then even the acting choices, the acting parts I've gotten, if you look at them, they're not great thespian roles, but they're fun. They're a lot of fun. Like most fun was doing the Christopher Guest movie, Mascots, which is available on Netflix. You can watch it. Yeah, that was the most fun because it's just a bunch of improvisers, just having fun, just playing, but being being on that set, improvising with people. I got to do a scene with Fred Willard, which is one of the highlights of my career, and what a guy what a talent. So if you've seen my stand-up, you know I'm pretty high energy. I'm talking softly because we're in a hotel. I don't want to disturb people. But so I thought when I did the scene with Fred Willard, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be the crazy guy, and then he's going to react to me. And Fred, at late 70s, maybe early 80s at the time, he was over the top of me.
Oh, gosh.
And I had to look at him and be like, oh, I'm the straight man. You're the crazy guy. I'm the straight man. I'm the low energy straight man. I have to react to you. And it's weird. We adjusted like within the first couple lines. It was like, oh, and and just learning so much from who else in that movie? Jane Lynch is in that movie, and some other great people. And you're just like, this is not work. I get to be fans of all these people and look at what they're doing. It was so great. So like those acting opportunities are really fun. Acting in a show like Legit with Jim Jeffries, where I played a version of myself and just doing crazy, like me with the volume turned up kind of stuff, and Jim just going like, no, just be you. That's why you're playing you. Just be you. Okay, cool. I can do that. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, but yeah, any acting I do is just to enhance the stand-up. I'm not trying to do stand-up to be an actor. I'm trying to occasionally act to keep the stand-up going.
Yeah. It's so funny. I don't know that you would necessarily know him, but there's another LA comic that I talked to this summer, Eric Escobar, who... Can't say that I do. He's gotten more and more into acting, and when I asked him, because I'm always interested if people kind of get pulled away from the stand-up, or if, it's just something to strengthen their abilities on stage, he's like, no, it's totally because if I do acting, I can get more followers who will then attend my shows, and it's all about what I do to support the stand-up.
And don't get me wrong, there's parts of acting that are really fun. Overall, it's boring. It's really boring. You wait in a dressing room for whatever. You go, you shoot the scene, you do, from all these different angles, and you do it. Cool, you're done. All right, go back to your trailer, wait there, or your dressing room for another hour, and then the crew are the most important people on that set. They work the hardest. They don't get the breaks. They just nonstop keep working, keep setting up new shots, lighting, all that jazz. So there's a lot of downtime when you're acting. Whereas stand-up, there's some downtime, but you're in a hotel room in a great city. You can go around, you can watch a movie. You can it's so much more fun. So much more fun.
All right, let's talk about what you did in COVID. Your daughter was born a couple months before everything shut down.
January 13th.
So you might have already been in a mental mind state of, well, I'm shutting things down for a while so I can be at home and with my daughter.
Yeah, I was going to shut things down for 2 months.
God!
That didn't work out.
So was it a matter if you had already scheduled that at that 2 month mark, you're like headlining here,
yes.
Oh, God.
2 months, and after 2 months I had a year's worth of gigs. Now, don't get me wrong. my experience with COVID, I'm not trying to downplay anyone else's. Overall, obviously, the pandemic is horrible. I hate that it happened, and I'm not trying to downplay anyone's struggles or what they had to go through. My personal experience with it, there's never a good time for a pandemic, but if I had to choose a time, it would be the time that I had, because my daughter was born. I was forced to stay home, didn't go out on the road that much. I still went out a little bit. But I got to be there with her, and now my daughter knows me and loves me and reacts to me, and you can't ask for anything more than that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's it's great. Like I said, never a good time, but being home and having that distraction, I would read tweets and people were like, "I'm so bored all day," and I'm like, "What's that like?" Because I'm not
changing diapers.
Yeah, I'm changing diapers. I'm not sleeping. I'm trying to figure out how to get money coming into this house.
Yeah.
Pay for everything. I'm trying to support my wife and everything like that. So, people are like, "It's so boring all day." I'm like, I would kill for that. I would kill to have a boring day during the pandemic. But yeah, and then doing whatever shows you could, whether it be virtual, drive-in. Did a couple of those. Did virtual shows, drive-in shows, couple live shows. Like I would go out to some red states, do a live show, and then go, okay, I made a little bit of money. I'm not doing that for a while. I'm going back. And I would go home, get tested, and then go back in my house. And yeah, it was a crazy time. But just one more thing in terms of, it made me so thankful for all the things that, like, stand-up was taken away. And I realized how much I needed it. Like, I'd be running bits to my wife. I probably drove her nuts. Because she's trying to keep our baby alive, and I'm like, "Did you see what so-and-so said in the news? Joke, joke, joke." And she's like, "Shut up. Hand me a diaper. Like, what are you doing?" So, it was a crazy experience, but now, now that I'm back on the road, all the things that may have bothered me in the past about stand-up, now I'm like, no. It's all, I'll take my lumps, I'll take the bad with the good. Just because I know what it's like now to live without it, and I don't want to do that again. This is it. I want to do stand-up comedy. Like, whether I make money or less money or barely any money, whatever, don't care. I need to do this.
Do you feel you've achieved the balancing act of being away from your family to, get back to your original love of stand-up?
If you ask me, I'd say I'm doing a great job. If you ask my wife, she will have a different answer.
Yeah.
But, no, there will always be that balance and trying to find it. Like, right now, my balance is I do 3 weeks on the road. I do 1 week at home. And then also, it's like, how much do I go out when I'm in LA? How often do I go out to the Comedy Store, the Improv, whatever? Mm-hmm. So, it's finding that balance. I've heard from other comedy dads, it gets harder as the kid gets older, because now they can talk to you and tell you, "Daddy, don't go away for the weekend," and you're like, "Mother," like,
yeah, the guilt trips.
Yeah. So I remember Brian Posehn told me a story of when he found out that I was going to be a dad, and he goes, "Man, get ready," and he goes, "Because one day my kid goes, 'Dad, I don't want you to go,' and then Dad goes, 'Well, I have to go, buddy, because you your Xbox, the house, all the stuff. That's how we get these things. Is Daddy has to go out.'" And Brian's son looked at him and goes, "I don't need an Xbox. I don't need the house. I need Dad." And he's just like, "What are you doing to me?" Like, so it's like I hear stuff like that, and I'm like, "Oh, it's gonna be a rough day. It's gonna be a rough day."
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's already like, even when I FaceTime with my daughter, she's 19 months old, and she's like trying to look behind the iPad to see Dad, and like it's just it's killing you. Yeah. But so it'll always be, and I'm always gonna make a strong effort to find that balance. It's weird. There's some comics, I will not mention any names, but there's some comics who have kids where I'm go, "Do you see your children? Do they know who you are?" Because every 2 seconds you're doing a podcast, you're doing a tour, you're doing a Pepe, you want to know what I never see? You just hanging out with the babies. Like, you know, but hey, to each their own.
Yeah.
If that's the life that they're doing, okay, maybe they're doing it right and I'm doing it wrong. And there's that balance that you have to achieve of like, well, I have to keep working to be successful and keep selling tickets, but then you also want to be there for the family. But if you're there for the family too much and you ignore the work, then the work dries up and now crap, you know. So yeah, it'll be a constant effort. It'll never be perfect. It'll never be done. You'll just keep trying to adjust, and maybe you lean too far on one side, so you have to overcorrect and go back to the other. I'm sure there'll be times when I go, you're right, I've been gone too long, I'm going to cancel whatever group of shows and make sure I see your recitals and stuff like that. But I think the important thing is that, and I was recently on Howie Mandel's podcast, and he does it with his daughter, and I told his daughter, I said, ignore the fact that your father's sitting right next to you. You know, tell me the good, tell me the bad. What did he do? What did he not do? Like, and one thing that she told me was, whenever Howie was home, he was dad. He was not home and then going back out, taking calls and meetings, and but like, no, he was dad.
Yeah.
So he goes, she goes, that was important. So that I'm going to take that really into account. So when I do go home, that's when I'm dad. I'm home.
Yeah. So I mentioned that for 4 Moontowers now, I've sat down with Jeremiah, and our focus is more on the checking in. But since you're LA based, I'm going to throw this question at you that has to do with, there have been so many comics that have left LA and moved to Austin, and I want to ask you, what has that done to the shape of the LA scene at those high levels where the Comedy Store, the Laugh Factory have been booked with these major names that have now come here.
Me personally, I love it, because I was going on at 11:30 at night, and now I'm going on at 10. That's a lot better.
It's a promotion.
Yeah, it's
so
good.
That's kind of what I was hoping to hear. That
it's a nice sweet spot. Like, yeah, you miss the people that left. You miss not seeing them out every night, and obviously seeing them perform. It's one of the great blessings of our business is we get to do this, and we get to see amazing comedians perform all the time. But yeah, I think it's great. It's opening up new opportunities, not only for the comedians in LA, because now there's a few more spots, but the comedians in Austin, because of these names that have moved. Your Rogans, your Seguras, the opportunities they're now bringing, and the legitimacy they're bringing to other scenes. Theo and Nate Bargatze and Josh Wolf over there in Nashville, and Steve Byrne. These towns are now being raised up as sort of new comedy hubs. So you don't just have to be in New York and LA anymore. You can be in LA, you can be in New York, you can be in Austin, you can be in Nashville. The scene in Denver is blowing up right now. So these are all great new comedy hubs that you can be at. And now it's like you don't have to be in New York or LA, because you don't have to, like, the industry is in New York and LA, so that's why you always, quote unquote, had to live there. Now you can have a podcast, you can have a TikTok, you could have a YouTube, you could have any combination of those, and build your own following to where you don't need to go on auditions and meetings and stuff like that. So it's great. I think it's a net positive. I miss seeing the people. I miss seeing the people that moved. But at the same time, I'm happy for the opportunities that it's brought to the comics in LA and the comics in these other cities.
Okay. Well, the only other thing that I really have on my radar is we miss seeing Adam Ray at Moontower.
Yeah.
I know you had and I could not honestly tell, is the podcast over or is it continuing?
So I am off the About Last Night podcast.
Okay.
I did it because I'm already traveling as much as I am, and when I'm home, I want to be home, and I want to. And I don't want to miss any more stuff that I'm already missing. Yeah. So that's why I decided to step away. I'm still great friends with Adam. I talked to him last few weeks ago, and I'm a groomsman in his wedding coming up. So, like, I don't want people to, when they heard I left, to be like, they're fighting. It's like, no, we're fine. We're good. So yeah,
I'm sorry.
But I'm stoked. I'm stoked for him. He's still doing the podcast along with a couple other podcasts. So by all means, he's great on the microphone. Please subscribe to those, listen to those. I'll probably start another one up at some point when I'm ready and can kind of have a more concrete look at my schedule and see when I could fit it in. But yeah, obviously he's one of my best friends. I miss having him here. I was texting him yesterday because I was like, hey, I was at the corner the other day where you and I got drunk and started throwing loaves of bread at people. Yeah, not like the homeless. Okay, they weren't doing that. It was late at night. It was bread they were throwing out because it was day old bread, and they only have fresh bread at this particular spot. So they put it outside. We got a couple loaves. We ate them, and then we started just being like passing them out to comedians and like throwing them at people. Like, hey, who wants bread? And then we started throwing bread at people. It's fun stories like that. But yeah, stories like that happen. Like, God, how many of those types of stories happened just last night, and how many will happen tonight? It's really exciting. I love this festival.
Yeah. Well, I love that you come every single year, and
oh yeah, as long as Austin will have me, yeah. I will be here.
Well, I don't know if you heard the news. We're recording this on Friday, and they had this press conference, and now JFL and Moontower are officially joining forces, and it's going from 4 days to 10 days. I'm gonna have to take a lot more vacation time.
I'm stoked. I want to be in Austin for 10 days. I want to stay the whole time. So, yeah, they're turning Moontower into like the American JFL.
Yeah.
So there'll be two. It'll be great to have two big festivals every year that we can all go and enjoy, and for an extended amount of time. And like almost every comedian I know is a fan of comedy. So we get to, like, I'm gonna run around. I've got my solo show tonight, but I'm gonna run around and see whatever I can see, in terms of the other comedians out there doing stuff. So I'm stoked. It's big news. It's great news, and like I said, it's only allowing more opportunities for more comedians. So it's fantastic.
I have completely glossed over that tonight. I mean, you're actually taking time out of your day to talk to me, and tonight you are headlining Paramount Theater, which is a huge, gorgeous theater, classic.
Yeah.
And how often do you get to do like these old classic theaters?
Yeah, it's exciting because I'm on the brink. Like, I sell really well in the clubs. I do a couple of theaters in a couple of different markets. So whenever I do get a chance to do a theater, it's just really fun. Yeah. It's really fun to pretend rock star for a little bit, and it'll be fun tonight. It's going to be a great show. I'm stoked for it. Yeah. And like I said, the audiences in Austin are very smart, and they're very comedy savvy. And I'm looking forward to performing for them, seeing what kind of feedback they give me, and seeing how I could be better. So when I'm here for 10 days, it'll be even more exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, is there anything as we wind down here? Is there anything I haven't talked about that you want to make sure people know about you?
Just that I tour like a goddamn madman. So diapers aren't cheap. So go to bradwilliamscomedy.com, check out my tour schedule, see when I'm coming near you. I promise I'll be more lively than I was in this hotel lobby lounge area. I'm trying, but like so yeah, just see what I'm touring and come see a show, and just in general go see live comedy. It's great. It's back. We were out for a while. It's a whole ecosystem of people. It's not just the comedians, it's the staff, the comedy clubs, it's the bookers, it's so many people that rely on us. So go out when you feel comfortable and see stand up, and let's laugh again. It's so much fun, and I'm so lucky that I'm able to see and do all these really cool things with these amazingly talented people. Yeah. So I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, I have a closing question for you, Brad.
Fire away.
One word to describe your future.
Let's see. So optimistic was the word to describe my past. My future. just dedicated to comedy, dedicated to my family, dedicated. Yeah, like I want to. Those are the most important things to me right now. Is family and comedy, sometimes in that order. And
it will remind you when you get it out of order.
Yeah,
by the way.
It will. So yes, and I'm dedicated to an exciting future for myself, my family, and whatever I can contribute to the industry.
Well said, well said.
All right.
That is a wrap on Comedy Wham Presents. Brad Williams, tell us where we can find you. Go ahead and rattle off your website and your social medias.
BradWilliamsComedy.com, Twitter at FunnyBrad, Instagram at BradWilliamsComic, and go. I'll try to keep you entertained.
Definitely catch him live. If he comes to a destination near you, he is worth it. We hope you've enjoyed learning about how Brad got to be the comedic genius that you heard today.
Shut your mouth.
Just as much as I have. This has been Comedy Wham Presents Brad Williams. I'm Valerie, and that's been funny. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.